Flipboard fam. This is your favorite Coach Jeffrey, and I have another amazing guest here tonight. I have my new friend, Kendrick Thomas. Welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. And thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So before I get into that, let's tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself.
Yes, sir. Man, Kendrick Thomas, assistant principal, high school alternative. So ALC at A-Leaf ISD. Education for a while, man, just doing what it takes. Leave a stamp in the trail with these young men. So that's been the focus. Behavior has been the focus. Just left doing 10 years in elementary assistant principal. So now on to high school, man. Let's see if we can change some bigger lives. And so that's me in a nutshell, brother.
Okay, great. So a couple things about this. You are an assistant principal, and I was an assistant principal as well. So it's good. So talk to me about, we have a lot of similarities, right? So we both got the nice haircut.
Hey.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
we
sir.
both like the podcast. Let's talk about your podcast first of all.
Yes, sir. Man, just changed it. You know how you go through the rebranding stage, and on there, it was called the Daily K podcast. And we reached out, we did education, of course, but we also did entrepreneurship, we did wellness. So we did a lot of that work. But now I took it and I wanted to focus on more of education, what you're doing, because I think it's changing so much until I want to be able to still keep that community connection that we built. So doing that, but now just really focusing in and honing in on the people who are making waves and doing the things in education that we must have those conversations with, brother. So, man, we started 2019, 0 subscribers. Now we push it up to about 7,000 on YouTube. We steady growing the audio downloads as well, man. Just steady pumping, but it's still rebranding, learning, doing.
Yeah. Don't brag about followers or whatever, because people are going to follow people who are authentic anyway. So whether I got 5 forever or if I got 1 million, I hope that I can stay true to the mission of just being someone who is talking about education. So why did you choose education for your particular podcast to begin with? Because you have a pretty good following.
Yes, sir. The biggest thing was just bringing it back to understanding who are most of those followers. And so while I do wellness and while I did that financial wellness and all those pieces, and I still have another day for that, my biggest shows were when I brought on XD Chambers, who was Superintendent A-Leaf, or when I brought on people like Dr. Creer, brought on people like Dr. Bro. So just understanding that the biggest numbers came from those education. And so then being able to hone that back in to be able to just take it to another level in that field where we already got the track.
It's funny that you would mention Dr. Cecilia Creer, because when she was a principal of George Bush High School, she hired me as an assistant basketball coach and aquatic science teacher. So,
come on now.
Yeah. Shout out to Dr. Creer. Look at you, Dr.
Shout out to Dr. Creer, man. Yeah, man. Now that I transferred over, she's now my area superintendent at school. I'll be able next year. So looking forward to working side by side, man, and just cultivating to be better.
Yeah. And tell Dr. Creer I said hi, man. Good old Coach Jeffrey. Just tell her I said hi, and I hope to see you in these circles. All right, so my man, you also have written a book. You're writing a book currently, and it's coming out pretty soon, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Trying to drop something this fall, man, for about, I want to say 2013. So I got Principal Kafele coming on for my first podcast, starting up for season 10. And the biggest thing was he wrote the book of Minority Males, so pushing them to achieve inside and out the classroom. And so from there, when I read it, he created that boys club. And so he put that format down into there. And man, I took that because I knew I needed somebody when I was that age that would have put together a boys club. And that's what saved me with the Lighthouse of America. So I was like, man, let me put together this boys club. And from there, all the way up until just last year, even as assistant principal, I'm running this club in between hours, in between meetings and community events. And so just doing that work, man, and I took that to create a guide for parents and targeted at single parents or parents who really can't connect with those young, just reflecting on conversations that I've had with young men. But how do we create a nurtured son that will be a nurturing dad? And so that's basically what that book takes us through.
Gotcha. And let's talk about a little bit about your past, because that actually is what shaped your current trajectory. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, man, open book really about that. Coming from someone who's never met dad, my mom was 15 when she had me, so it's like we grew up together. Just going through all of those pieces where you're bumping your head and you steady learning on the fly. I think about all my time as working with behavior, emotionally disturbed students. Almost in a sense, you think about a lot of your sped teachers. They were the kids that they served at one point. Man, just think that was something real. Just growing up and losing mom to jail for 5 years. Really being now almost going into the system, but grandma stepping in and man, it was a lot, brother. But all of that, like you say, is what shaped me. Man, just thinking about losing mom, we talking about having a standoff at my house, right? And so we in the middle, me and my sister and brothers. And so after losing my mom to that, the almost going into the system and not being for grandmother. Tell people it was so funny. My neighbor, her neighbor just happened to have one of those police scanners. Old school, they would listen to the police scanners.
Yeah.
Just listen.
No one.
That was the way that they found out that the whole standoff was happening with my mom. So then he went and told my grandmother. Of course, she came over. That really shaped us because now I move with grandmother. I almost think sometimes, a lot of the times, had I not moved with grandmother, what would my values be? How would life be different? Because I was fortunate enough to have my grandmother, my great grandmother, and great great grandmother all alive at the same time. So I was getting from everywhere, brother.
Wow. That's amazing. That
Yes,
right
sir.
there is a blessing. That is a huge blessing. That's a huge blessing. Was your father in your life as well?
No, sir. Now, that was one thing about it. Never met him before. I had a conversation once. From that conversation, man, it was so crazy. He told me that I had a brother here in Houston by his name. And I got here in 2003 and I woke up one day, 2007, and said, I got a brother. And I remember he worked at the hospital. Dude, I called every hospital in this city until I found him. And
Oh,
so never met my dad before, but I was lucky enough. My brother committed suicide, which is one of the reasons I started the podcast in the first place. But my brother committed suicide, but I was able to still get that connection of his life from just going through those things with him, man. But yeah, that was it, brother.
yeah. Hey, it sounds like we got a lot of parallels, man. It's crazy how grandparents can step in and change your life. So you had to go to college, okay, in order to get to where you are. Where'd you do your undergraduate? And I'm sure, and you had to get a master's. So let's talk about that. So you went through that life struggle, and I'm pretty sure you probably wasn't the best student. Was you a straight A student? No, I'm just guessing. I don't know.
Now, let me tell you, man, college was crazy for me, dude. I found out about college, I think it was like March of my senior year. That's when I first knew there was something called college. Like I didn't have no test. I was like, this is what you gonna do next. I just asked my god brother, I said, man, what you gonna do after you graduate? Because I know what my plan was. We finna get this money. And so he said, man, I'm going to college. I said, man, what's and we did that stuff. Of course, by then you jump in school, financial aid, late, you scared. So I really didn't take it serious. So then I was definitely not a straight A student. But fast forward, I was going to school and if something happened, man, where they told me I had to either pay for everything or I had to cancel all my classes. And I called my friend who was living here. And he said, man, you could come stay down here and go to school. Brother, he told me that on Tuesday, September 3rd, 2003, he came and picked me up from Shreveport, Louisiana. I started school January of '04, and I was done with that undergrad, University of Houston, by 2008. Now, that schooling look way different, and it's a lot more meaningful. So, yes, sir, that second time, straight A student.
A lot of parallels. Let me just go ahead and tell you, I feel you on that with it. So of course, then you had to go. So you got your degree now, and what did you major in? And then how did you get in it?
Once again, that was one of the places where I could only find that instant gratification. And so then looking at, man, if I can work with this kid and I can come back and test you a little while later and you still remember what we talked about, I said, where can I keep getting this feeling from? And so that's how I did it, man. University of Houston downtown, go Gators, education, then graduated and did my master's education administration, EB. So that was pretty much it, brother.
Yeah. And you were working at inner city schools when you started to work in education?
Man, always in the city. Man, I was thinking about a para. I was a para. When I first moved down to Houston, I was a para at Lee High School for a long time, man. Then, yeah, right there on Hillcroft. So spent a lot of time there, then I left. And man, I remember leaving and going to 5 HCCs when I was doing community for the first 2 years, just grinding, brother. And so finally I got back into education, worked over what I want to say at Barnett for a little while, just the first year out. Then I went down to College Station where I taught high school English, coached football and track and powerlifting at Rhoda High School in Bryan. And from there, man, came on back. A-Leaf
Come
ISD has
on,
been
bro.
there 2013.
Yeah. And so talk to us about the students who you serve now. What's the current demographics and some of the challenges y'all make?
Right now, I'll be moving over to ALC. And I haven't got too much into it. We're just coming back from vacation right now. But when you think about your population, of course, you got your minority males, African American, Hispanic students, are then really a high popular concentrate, of course, of males. So they do have a few programs that they're already doing. I'm learning that so as a behavior teacher before, you think about their behavior and you say, okay, if there's no behavior management, no instruction is going to get done. So you almost got to say, okay, let me manage the behavior, then instruction. And then you move over to that main campus. And so you think, no, we're going to get this instruction out and we're going to manage behavior on the back end. We're going to get it done though. And now just switching back over and just getting into that mind frame, man, and being able to love on the kids, but from a different lens, which is something I look forward to. But that ugly monster, everybody is tied to their own school, is funding, right? So I'm coming from a campus where we were 1-to-1 on the tech. And so now coming over here, so I'm looking at just get ready to shape that world around me, man.
Yeah, totally get that. As most Black men do, including myself, we chase the kids in which we are. A lot of us needed a strong Black male figure in your life, and we try to be that. But it's a different realm in educational administration in the state of Texas because traditionally, even though those numbers are changing now, traditionally, there's not many of us. What's your experience on breaking those barriers and gaining, I guess, a perspective for leadership and working in circles that where people don't normally have your same background?
Man, I would say God knows how to order those steps, man. When I went down to College Station, you go to the job fairs and you look and you'd be like, oh, no, man, I know they'll never hire somebody like me, man. And lo and behold, you go have that conversation and that's the place they're hiring you at. So going down and working in College Station, like I said, the Kafele book was a book study that the school chose to do for my internship. And I was leading that book study with teachers. What you think about 79% African American student population, but 94% other than African American staff. Right. And so that you say, how do you build those bridges and create that empathy versus that sympathy? And so that was part of the beginning of my work on working with young males and working with those. So that knowledge in itself is what allowed me to say, okay, let me feel comfortable and be able to talk to everybody. And then they let me do my intern year, a full year as an internship for PV. So I'm still leadership, still coaching football. So I'm still getting it from both angles. And so really, man, that was the piece that put it in me that helped.
Yeah. So now you are an assistant principal for students who have some issue that traditional school can't necessarily address. And sometimes they're there by circumstance of discipline. Sometimes they're there by, I think all the time for an alternative educational placement is discipline. How are you looking to address those needs with those students, knowing your background and knowing how far they could actually go?
Yeah. Man, and that is one of the pieces that we're working on this year because you have to show that empathy, right? And you have to show them, get to the root of what it is. Cause a lot of the time, man, I'm acting up because I really ain't got this. Or what I'm saying now almost is a drug, is from what I'm talking to my team about. They coming for drugs. And so then what are you self-medicating from if you're doing it, brother? Which is in a lot of cases is happening. So on one fold, I feel like I got to get in and I got to create that relationship. But on the other end, I got to walk a fine line because I don't want you to like this place, right? I don't want you to say coming here is normal, and I want to get there to talk to them, it's a tea or things like that. So I got to create that fine line. And so that's what I've been struggling with this summer, man, as I get ready to transition from that main campus, man. But just understanding that discipline, you got to get to the root cause because a lot of the time these kids don't know how to get it out. Violence is very getting loud. All that stuff is very comfortable. So you really got to get to it. But the biggest part is I've been there. I got the empathy for it, but not the sympathy. So I'm going to hold you to that high accountability and I'm going to get you out of here and hopefully back to lessen the recidivism.
Yeah. And that's recidivism is very important, especially in the state of Texas, because there has been an established pipeline where students who don't traditionally pass tests end up in our juvenile justice system. And it starts in places like an ALC. And I got to give it to my superintendent, I got to give it to both of them. Stephen Galloway, my superintendent, and Chris Miller, the assistant superintendent. Like, they are on us about that. And I don't work in my school district, it's 60%, 30% Hispanic, and 8% African American. And my superintendent and my assistant superintendent are not African American. But they pay attention to the discipline disparities. And I appreciate that. It's one thing to be in a leadership of people who understand, who traditionally understand, but to have people who understand the culture, who are not in the culture, I find value in that. And I didn't mean to take over your interview, but I find value in that.
Hey, man, the best interview is a conversation, brother. I appreciate that tidbit, man, because, the same here. You got to think about those because it happens, right? You may see one kid and another kid have the same offense, but one kid got 30 days, one kid got 45, and you pushing for 60. And it's only a simple skin color or something like that, which made a difference in those numbers, man. Yes, I agree. You got to be aware of that. So, I just love, like I said, man, God knows how to order it, man. So I just love going in all the experiences that I've had so far that will even bring me back to this place. Because, of course, APs, we get moved. And so then you get the opportunity to say, okay, do you want to go here or here? And so then I chose alternative. And I said, this is where I think it's time to move because this is where I think it's just needed, brother. So,
yes. All right, man. So you have your podcast, you got a book coming out. What else do you do?
Woo! Basically, man, the KTTV media. So the podcast is one thing. We got the books in that side of it, but we also do social media management. We're also doing content creation for people. I've been doing a few festivals. I just got through with it was called the Anything Festival. So I had a company. They paid us to go out and do videos out there. Dude, it's just a full thing, man. But that's my summer life. We all got that summer life.
Yeah.
And so now it's coming back down. But yeah, so now it's just getting back focused on this and really getting back to the podcast, man. Those are my two staples of doing this school year, man. So but that's it. Media company, full blast. And speaking, brother, going out to schools and working with them to set up programs for young men to be able to go out and work with the teachers on creating that empathy. So that's pretty much the work, man.
I feel you on that. And also, too, I would like to invite you to Flipboard. So Flipboard is a form that's free. And so as you podcast or all your previous videos, whatever, it's a community that's already there and it's on a huge, it's not a huge company, but they're everywhere. And so their own devices, they got media that is easily transferred and easily adapted with. So I would love to get you on the platform. I think it's a great opportunity for you. Since I stumbled over my words so much, I'm also going to cut that out. But I do want to invite you to Flipboard.
Yes, sir, man. And look, we do not turn down opportunities, brother. It is all about learning, growing, and networking. Let's do it.
Yeah. Love to get you in there. All right. Where can our listening audience find you at?
Yes. All right. So I tried to keep it simple. Everything is branding. So if you just go to KTTEV.com, you'll be able to find our social media. You'll be able to find our books. A lot of the podcasts now we've been doing sponsorships. Man, you can just get locked in because we are believing in serving our customers, serving our clients, serving our community. So just serving is what we do, man. So KTTV.com, get locked in and find everything.
Okay, gotcha. And I'm also putting together a summit of podcasters talking about educational topics on Twitter. So through Twitter audio. So I would like to invite you cordially to that. Are you on Twitter as well?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. I'd like to invite you to that, and we'll have our first line table coming up pretty soon. And I'll drop you a line and let you know what we'll be talking about. I think you'll be able to just hop right in.
Man, I look forward to it. Let's do work, man.
All right, I got you, young player. Hey, it was nice meeting you, man, and thank you for coming to the show.
Look, man, it was my pleasure, and I look forward to having you on very soon, brother. Let's finish this conversation.
2023, the education landscape will have unprecedented innovation and creativity. With original ideas flourishing everywhere, educators can look forward to being engaged in more meaningful ways than ever before, thanks to authentic approaches that provide just the right dose of individuality and imagination. At the same time, ethical considerations will become increasingly more important. So you have my word that I will stay fresh, original, and authentic. So like we always do about this time, let's collaborate, communicate, and educate with the best educators in the world right here on Flipboard EDU Podcast.